Welcome. Great to have you here with a nice full house tonight. If you think variety is the spice of life, then you like Eastern North Carolina weather. Because about a week ago we were basking in 70-some degrees. Today was about 60, now it's raining. By the time you leave tonight, the rain shall be stopped, which will be good, and then you can be in for a nice cold weekend. But that's the way life goes, and that's not a bad thing. At our gala last year, I mentioned, and all of you gave us a big round of applause for the Tourist Event Center, because the Convention South Media Group voted that this facility, the Tourist Event Center in Havelock, was the annual Reader's Choice Award for meeting places. It's a pretty big deal, and it was a big deal. So like most people, obviously after you win an award like that, then you can say, "Ooh, we made it," and you kind of cool down and you sort of take it easy. No, not so. If you notice, the walls have been painted. There's new cloth on there. All of the partitions are new. The airplanes look very nice outside. The inside, all the displays have been redone, and they look incredibly good. So they didn't give up, and they just didn't say, well, we'll sit back on our laurels and let life get by. And then the really good thing is, we just found out they've been selected again, 2 years in a row, as the best meeting place. So let's give them a big round of applause. And the building belongs to the city, but the care here is done by Pam Holder and her very small crew, and they really do work hard. It's funny, when the weather's bad, you're outside, you complain about it. When you come inside, if something's not right, you really get angry. Well, you don't do that. And I've been here for weddings, for memorial services, for kids' summer camps, for about everything you can think of, this place can do. They don't say no. They just make it happen, and they're really good. So we are indeed fortunate, and congratulations, Mr. Mayor and Pam and the whole team down here that makes us proud to have this in Havelock, North Carolina. But of course, you came tonight for more than just a beautiful setting and a delicious meal, because the Flame is the caterer, so you know the food is going to be good. But you kind of wanted to find out a little bit about the honored guest tonight, because it's a sort of a strange title, An Aviator's Journey to Eastern North Carolina. He's never left. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But all of you would like to know more about Cherry Point, the air station itself, about the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing. I would say you'd want to learn more about Fleet Readiness Center East, but if you were here last year, you know everything about the Fleet Readiness Center East. And if you don't, Mark Mino and Captain Birdie said they will be glad to meet with you during dinner and inform you about even more and answer any questions you may have. Right, Captain Birdie? Mark? Okay, so these guys are on, and they really want to get going and help out. But all of you are like our title sponsors, really want to know what it is that we do and how we get kids excited about education and about futures and that sort of thing. So, Sean, come on. Right there. It's good to still have decent eyes, thanks to the wonders of nature and medicine. We do have several special guests with us tonight, and I'd like to mention their names. Please hold your applause if you feel so inclined. You probably won't. North Carolina Representative Steve Tyson and his wife Jana are here. Colonel. Okay, we'll give you that one, but the rest of them hold your applause for. Okay, Colonel Brendan Burks, our CEO of MCAS Cherry Point, and his wife Holly. Captain Randy Birdie, the XO of the Fleet Readiness Center East, and his wife Helga. Craven County Commissioner Chevel Hunt, goes by Sherry. City of Havelock Mayor Will Lewis and his wife Rain. Where are you, Will? Oh, I should have known that. City of Havelock Commissioner Josh Corr and his wife Hannah. The Commissioner Karen Lewis and her husband George. Mayor Pro Tem Danny Walsh. Commissioner Brenda Wilson. Commissioner Tyrone Canty and his wife Barbara. City of New Bern Alderman Bob Brinson and his wife Amy. The City of Havelock Assistant City Manager Cindy Morgan. And Mark Mino, the Executive Director at Fleet Readiness Center East. We wanted to have the city manager, but he hurt his back and he had to back out the last minute. So I guess the mayor's working him too hard. That's what he said. I don't know if that's true. So, but thanks to all of you. It's great to have you here. We also have great sponsors. We're very fortunate that we always get good sponsors. We have ECAF members that are here tonight, history buffs, media, WCTI, Interbanks Media, FM 107.1 from Morehead City. We have community friends, we have Marines and sailors. How about if all the young Marines from the Single Marine Program will stand up, please? We got a batch of them here tonight. Please stand up. These are the young guys that volunteer and get out, and they'll volunteer to do almost anything anybody needs. Hard work, easy work. So tonight, I told them all they have to do is eat, lean back, and enjoy. But it's great to have them here, and it just makes the evening special when they are. We even have some old timers as far as the ECAP goes. We have Charles Lindbergh out there. Looks kind of like Tim Clark tonight. We have Mark Mino, who's here again. I got a call from Orville Wright, and he wanted to come, but he said he and his brother are working on a new invention, so maybe next year we'll know something new from those guys, because they always do something interesting. So if I mentioned you or the group you're associated with, or anybody you know that's in one of those groups, please stand up. Come on. Danny Bucher, Commissioner, I didn't see you, but so that's it. No, stay up. That's all there are. All young Marines, stand up. Stand up. Okay, everybody stand up, please. Everybody. This is too hard. And this is so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. But first, let me remind you of what's special about today. February the 23rd, 1945. Some young Marines raised a flag on top of Mount Suribachi 79 years ago. In that battle that lasted 36 days, 189 Marines died every day. Incredible. So anytime I get a chance to look at the flag, I try to remember some special things. And since that's on this day, it really stuck in my mind. So you won't hear the sirens from 450 Navy ships that were off and around the island. You won't hear the cheers from the 70,000 plus Marines that were there when they looked up and saw the flag go up. But you feel it. So please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Mayor Lewis to welcome you officially to this fair city of Havelock.
Good evening. Welcome to Havelock. And welcome to our award-winning Tourist and Event Center, 2 years in a row. I like to tell people that you can't buy the award that we've got. It's the Reader's Choice, the People's Choice Award. You had to come here and check it out, enjoy our venue, get to know our people, and actually have an event here to win that award. So we're super proud of it. You know, a lot of you drove in from New Bern or Moorhead, and when you come to Havelock and you think about what's different about Havelock, New Bern's got a really cool downtown. And you all know that. I mean, we enjoy their downtown. Moorhead's got a really cool waterfront. But we are the only city in the world that can say we are home to the world's largest Marine Air Corps station. Right, Marines?
Wow.
We're the only city in the world that can say we're home to the FRC East. Right here. Our leadership's here for that. And until a couple months ago, when Mark Mino himself was giving a speech, he's with FRC East over there, he was talking about how special the ECAF was. I've been a part of the ECAF since it started. We've got former Mayor Jimmy Sanders here in the room, and when he was mayor and I was a commissioner, he assigned me to go be a part of the ECAF and figure out what that organization was going to be and what we were going to do. And some of us, like Tom and myself and others on the board, have been here since it started. And when you build something like that, you don't necessarily think about how special it is. You're just kind of doing your work. And in Havelock, I feel like we just kind of do our work. You don't worry about awards and things, just kind of do it. And Mark's been traveling across the country and working with these other groups that want something like we have, that does STEM education, that feeds the pipeline for FRC East, that feeds the pipeline for the future for engineers, for science, technology, engineering, math. We run a summer camp for 4th grade through 6th grade, and Tom's going to tell you all the great things we do. But Mark stood there and said, all these states around us were trying to do what we did, but they couldn't get the combination right. And somehow here in Havelock, we got the combination right almost 12 or 15 years ago. And that has grown and grown and grown. And a lot of that is because of you guys sitting in this room here today, because some of you have been coming to this event for well over a decade. And some of you, it might be your first time here. And if it's your first time here, what I want you to know is you're in a special place, as I talked about a second ago, and you're supporting a special mission that does things that other missions in other states are still trying to figure out. And so thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to Havelock. Thank you for supporting our Eastern Carolina Aviation Heritage Foundation, which in true military style, we made it a really long name and then shortened it to an acronym called the ECAF. So thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. I hope you have a fantastic night.
He just said it all. Well, he didn't quite say everything. When you came in tonight, you may have noticed off on the side there was a table over there. I think my wife was sitting in one of them, and it was an opportunity to jump in and join the ECAF should you want to do it. It's incredibly dirt cheap, and it helps us because that allows us to do more things, give scholarships to kids for our summer camps, and do those sorts of things. So you can do that. And then at dinner tonight, you'll have a chance because some of our members are going to come around and offer you the chance to do two things. One is to join, and if you do, then the winner of that will get we'll have a drawing at the end of the night. So if you are a member and you're renewed, or if you're a new member, we'll have a drawing, and the winner will get a nice wooden replica of an Avi-8B, because our speaker tonight's an Avi-8B driver, so that's what we're going to do. And the other one is we'll have a raffle, and if you wish to participate in that, the gifts are a framed aviation print of an F-18 by Ken Fish, who's a renowned artist in this area, a round of golf at Carolina Colors, or a 30-minute sightseeing tour in a plane, courtesy of D2 and Adam Persky. So that would be a fun thing. So we'll have those available during the lunchtime. Okay, will you run the promotional video, please? This to give you a little clue about the ECAF.
Eastern Carolina is home to over 100 years of aviation history. From the early 1900s, with Wilbur and Orville Wright taking flight at Kitty Hawk, to the turn of the century with our beloved Pedro, to the dawn of a new era with the next generation F-35 Joint Strike Fighters. Our community supports and promotes this heritage, and Eastern Carolina Aviation Heritage Foundation wants to ensure the tradition continues for generations to come. Join us as we host a series of events for people of all ages. Experience the heritage, community, and patriotism we share with MCAS Cherry Point and make marine aviation history come alive. Our partnership between the military and civilian communities is unlike any other, and we count on you for your support. Become a member today to be a part of the amazing journey.
Okay, Pete, let's put the slides up, please. I'm going to give you a little clue about what we did last year and what we have scheming for this year. I think. Yes, we are. Actually, it was a really great year last year. We had all of our normal events and a little bit more, and we had lots of smiling kids who left here far more excited about education and about the future than they were when they got here, which is one of the biggest goals that we have. Next one, please. Our gala last year was right there, the best kept secret. And for a lot of you, Fleet Readiness Center East doesn't mean very much. You're not really sure what that is. It sounds like one of those crazy military acronyms, and it is. But Mark Mino did a great job. He wowed us with the capabilities. A lot of people had no idea, but you can break an airplane in Afghanistan, and the next day there'll be a team from Fleet Readiness Center East out there fixing it on site. You can ask for almost anything, and they can reverse engineer parts and make it for you. And the statistics, what it means to this area, the number of people from Craven County, Carteret County, Onslow County, Pamlico County, Jones County, that work and depend on the Fleet Readiness Center East, it's really astounding. And it's a great organization. And as I mentioned before, Mark said if you have any questions and he didn't explain it clearly enough last year, he'll be happy to do it. And if you weren't here last year, he'll give you a 30-minute lecture after we're done tonight and give you the whole thing again. So, but Mark, thank you very much. And Captain Birdie, it's great to have you here as the XO of the Fleet Readiness Center East. Next up, please. The fly-in is always a great time. We did something a little different this year. Normally we've been showing a Disney kind of a film and then having half a dozen STEM stations, science, technology, engineering, and math, so that the kids can get out there and get their hands dirty and just try stuff out. Well, this year we decided that we would skip the movie and just have the kids play. So we had a lot more STEM stations. We even had the Future Farmers of America with some goats and small horse and stuff out there, so they could play with the animals, they could go through the helicopter, they could ask questions, they could run the robots from the explosive ordnance disposal unit over at Cherry Point, they could get on the fire trucks, they could talk to the MPs about the things they do, they could look at the dogs and watch how the dogs are trained and the sort of things they can do. They looked inside at some of the robots and things that we had meandering around, and they could actually drive them to see what it was. And one of the things I loved the most is I went outside and there were some kids out there, and one of them had a glass of water, or a bottle of water, and the EOD robot went up and just gently picked it up, took it out of their hand, and gave it to their friend, and then put hands back and just rolled away. And the kids are just going, holy mackerel, how did they do that? That's what we're trying to tell you. There are ways, all of you can do that. You just have to learn how. And that's what you do through hands-on and going through classes and studying and getting really good at it. We had about 300 people this year at our STEM fly-in, and we're going to do the same thing again next year, and I think we'll probably have even more than that. Next up, please. It's hard to see that from up here. I need a longer neck. Engineering summer camp. This is a good one. This year we actually had them build airplanes and then sail them. So we had some young kids who were standing next to that wall and sailed their plane and banged it off of that wall down there. Just, these are paper airplanes. No special thing, no propellers, just the design and the way they made them. They could put weights on them. They could change anything they wanted to, but it had to be just out of paper. And they could use a paper clip if they needed it for a weight, and that was it. But it was amazing. The kids really had a good time. And you can see in some of the pictures there that they get, well, up in the upper left is one of our instructors. They get a little carried away too, which is kind of fun. She thought she was Amelia Earhart, I think, but she showed up the next day, so she wasn't. Okay, next one, please. All right, summer camp. This year for summer camp, we're going to switch to some real aircraft. I mean, not jets and things that fly by and don't see anything. We're going to be talking about helicopters and drones and things that are low level, can land anywhere, do anything you want to do, except they can't break the sound barrier, but they can do almost anything else, and the kids are going to get excited. And the teachers are really, really happy about it because they're designing the new curriculum for us. We were very fortunate to get a large grant from a couple of families, the Armisteds and Prescotts, and we have used that to redesign some of our curricula so we have something new. So it's all in 3-year clumps. So you can, rising 4th through 6th grade, so 4th grade, 5th, 6th, they get something different every year, but it builds on itself. So they learn something new and get excited, which is really, really fun. And it's been very successful. And you can apply now. I'll say that because last year we had 86 applications and we have 50 slots. And they get recommendations from their teachers. And it's just, we want to get everybody in, but at the same time, we limit it because we want to use the space. What we do is we put tables in little sectors, 5 different sectors here, and each one has 10 kids, 1 teacher, 1 or 2 engineers from Fleet Readiness Center East, and 1 or 2 volunteers with each of the groups. So they're getting real hands-on, one-on-one attention, and it's great stuff. But if you're interested, your kids or you have grandkids, please go online and sign up now. Okay, next up, please. And then we do our fall partnership. This is where adults get to look like they're not so bright. Because they have to do the same thing the kids did in summer camp, but they only get about 15 or 20 minutes, maybe a half hour if I feel generous. But normally, I mean, when we do things like egg drops and all, we spend a week building up to that in the camp, and the kids keep statistics. They know exactly how to weight it, how to load it, what kind of parachutes to use and all. And the adults, they just kind of have to do it. And then we break a lot of eggs. But they had some pretty good flying last year. And the Fleet Readiness Center East, I'm not sure why, but they had some very good airplanes they built. Probably won't happen again, but they did a really good job. Okay, next up. Dates. So if you have a pencil or a paper, you're interested, or you think you have kids or grandkids who do, and they're all on our website, which is easy to get to. But if you look at the dates, the interesting thing is we work very closely with a lot of people. We work with NC State. One of their reps here that does the engineering school, the real engineer school, sits on our board. Mark Mino sits on our board, so we have the Fleet Readiness Center East and the power that all those engineers bring, Michelle and that whole team over there. We work with the community college on the Havelock campus, so we can do all of these things. And our goal, the mayor mentioned it, but other people want to see how we do it. We start them out, so 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and then we hand them off to the middle school. And the middle school right across the street has their camp. And then they hand them off to the high school, and the high school has theirs. And then you can hand them off to NC State if that's where they want to go to be an engineer. Then they can walk across the street and go to work for Fleet Readiness Center East. Why is that important? For Fleet Readiness Center East engineers and the artisans, especially in the senior level, and for the hospital, for doctors, when they come down and look for jobs, they love what they see. The equipment is good, the training is good, all of that stuff. And the family says, yeah, but where do I go to shop? And what do I do on the weekend? And what am I going to do now? But if you home grow a lot of kids right from our own neighborhoods, and they already love the area, and then we get them schooled through and bring them right up and offer them a really good paying job, they're going to be happy campers, and they're going to stay. And when they stay, it means that all the people that do that work serve our Marines better. So we all work together to try and make sure that we're doing it right. Okay, next up, please. So those are the dates. We haven't put a date on the fall partnership yet. Anybody know why? Because you can't compete with high school football. That's exactly why. I mean, you can do a lot of things, but do not try to mess with the high school football schedule. So once we get that schedule hard, then we'll pick a date for the fall partnership. But the gala next year, and we haven't picked the topic yet, but we have a couple of really good ideas. So it will be as good as tonight, which you'll hear very shortly if I stop talking. The fly-in in the summer is going to be just great, and the kids are going to love that. So next up, please. We started something, and other organizations do it. It's an honor roll. So people that have either been part of us or been in any of the services that have given their lives, and we have an honor roll, and we like to post their names. They're also on this board up here. And so if you see that and somebody on there is one of your friends or somebody in your organization knows it, feel free to come up here and take a photo of the board later. Okay, next one, please. And these are ones that are still with us. They have not passed on, even though some, I won't say that. Now, they're all still good. Okay, next one. We have sponsors. This year, our title sponsor is Carolina East, who's been a title sponsor forever. And anybody who has ever had the good fortune to command or just to work at the air station understands how important Carolina East is to us. We used to have a hospital over there that was, turned into a clinic, and now we have moved the baby factory to Carolina East, which is not a bad thing. I mean, and they're the emergency room. They're all the good things that one needs when you're dealing with heavy stuff and flying machines and hard work on hot airlines, and that you need a good hospital around. They've been very, very good to us. They even have taken pictures of baby deliveries and live feeds to a young Marine in Afghanistan, watching his wife deliver the child. I mean, pretty incredible stuff. So we thank you, Carolina East. WCTI, our News Channel 12. Donnie Cox comes out and participates. He doesn't just do the invocation, which he does very well. Thank you. But he's here for the summer camp. He's here when we do our STEM things, and he always has some kind of display and lets the kids' eyes get bigger. He'll spin water in a jug or something and talk about hurricanes and how science works. And that's important. But he's an active player, and we appreciate that a lot. We have sponsors at the platinum level, my wife. The gold sponsors, we have the City of Havelock, Robinson Family Dental, and Havelock. Did you flip that, please, Pete? Yeah, thank you. Yep, got our gold sponsors up there. Our silver sponsors, you want to flip the next one too, please? And our bronze, and our table sponsors. The reason I let you see that is that these people really make a big difference on what we can do. And I'm always encouraging folks that if you see names of somebody up there and you think you're going to need the service they have, please call them, use them, because they're good. They're with us. They're with a lot of other nonprofits in the area that are trying to do good things with families and kids, and they could use our support. So please support them. Okay, the ECAF board. Next one, please. Oh, we're going to show you the coins. Each year we do a coin that is represents something to do with the speaker. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that's just our ECAF coin, the Eastern Carolina Aviation Heritage Foundation. And then on the right side, we have an Aviate-B. And members get one of those coins along with being on our website for a year. So it's good advertisement for them as well. Okay, next up, please. And that I mentioned already, you'll be able to see somebody at lunch or at dinner time if you wish to help. Okay, I think that takes care of the slides. Yep, thanks, that's good. Now there's some folks I'd like to thank. First, the ECAF board. I think you ought to know who some of these folks are. We meet once a month, and then the development committee meets again, so twice a month. And there are folks that have been, some of them here this is the 15th of our galas, and some of them have been here all the way along. So if you're an ECAF member, board member, would you please stand up? And you can see we've got the city, we've got the Fleet Readiness Center East, we have the base, we've got lots of folks from different angles and different capabilities that are there, and all of us thinking toward the kids and what can we do to make it even better. And then, although they're not official members of our board, the ones who really make us tick, and people say, aren't you the chairman? I said, yeah, I am, but that lady back there, Pam Holder, is the one who does work. Pam, step out of the shadow for a second here. And she has a team. Diane Vaccarella, Laura Duran, Ushima Turner, Jeff Lowe, Teresa Gilmore, Megan, Lily Ford, Natalie Leopard, Holly Frazier, and Joe Hennessy. Most of them part-time, and you'll see a lot of them tonight tending the bars and things and helping us out, but they're the ones who make it look nice and make it easy for the board members here to just slip in and say, oh, tonight, everything ready? And you get a thumbs up, you say, oh, thank you very much, and off you go. We also have a lot of volunteers who are here from the city of Havelock. We have Kim Walters, J.C. McVicker, Sue Steinhauser, Mary Weigel, Sharon Reynolds, Diana Vaccarella already, graphic design, Brett King, Greta Meadows is doing some photography work for us, Todd Jakimiak, who's running the machine in the back to try and record all this, which I wish you'd pointed somewhere else. Volunteers, we have Sherry Sanders, the old mayor's, not the old mayor, the former mayor's wife, beg your pardon. I wasn't saying old to Sherry, I was saying old to, yeah, okay. And then Pete does our visuals and things. So I hope you can tell that we're busy, we're having a lot of fun. I mentioned already that we'll encourage you to take a look if you are inclined to join the membership or to take a raffle type thing. But right now I'd like to invite Donnie Cox to come up and bless the food before we start to eat it.
If you've been here before, it works this year. And if you, usually I have to talk into Tom's necktie because it doesn't, but it does work this year.
Yeah, and I caught a lot of grief for that too.
Anyway, would you join me please as we pray? Most gracious and glorious Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, Lord, and we thank you for all the many blessings that you bestow upon us. We're very blessed people, Lord, receiving more blessings in one day than we could repay in a lifetime. And God, thank you for being with us and guiding us and leading us. And Lord, for everybody here tonight, be with them as we begin another year of the planning process for the kids and projects and programs that helps challenge and to make the image for the kids that they want to learn and learn more. I pray, Lord, that you'll bless this food to our body and the hands that prepared it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Donnie. Okay. We're going to break for dinner. I mentioned again that the Flame has prepared the dinner, so you know it's going to be good. It will be served to you. You don't have to go get it. So it will come around and serve it to you. So when you're not eating or you've already finished eating, take a look at the displays out in the lobby out there. Rich Haslett does a lot of hard work to make sure those are up to date and they're in really good shape. So we would appreciate you taking a look at it. And let's see what time we're going to ask you to be back in here. I would think somewhere around, golly, I can't believe we're on schedule. Okay, at 7:45. Are there any Army guys in here? Do I need to help you with pictures or anything on the clocks? No? Okay. So sometime before that, we'll come back in, but I'll give you some warnings, 10 and 15-minute warnings. So at 7:45, we'll come back. But please enjoy your meal. Go out and take a look at the outside out there. If somebody comes around there and says, are you interested in joining the ECAF? Say yes or no, and kick them out of the way. If you want to do the raffle, again, it's a nice picture. It's a 30-minute scenic flight around the area, which is really neat, especially now with the lighthouses, and you get a chance to see the bypass going in and around Havelock, which is pretty incredible. So thanks. Enjoy. They'll be coming out and serving you shortly. First of all, Smoke is... Pam, could you get Smoke and have him come out here for a second, please? Flame always does a great job for us, and they're on the money. They're here early. They're ready to go. The food is delicious, and Smoke is always shy. I don't know why. But I'm sure he'll poke his head out or he'll send someone else, more than likely. But that's what he does. And I again want to thank our title sponsors, the Carolina East Health System, for all they do for the community and for our young Marines and families. Thank you. Also, WCTI, thank you very much. You're not very good at standing still for a photo, but you do a pretty good job when you're behind the camera. So thank you, we appreciate that. Now for what you came to hear about today, an aviator's journey to Eastern North Carolina. I'm guessing that you have read his bio in your program, so I'm not going to read it to you. You're welcome. I will mention a few highlights, just because you may have forgotten some of the things. And I have a kind of a question, I guess. I'm not sure if Michael invited his parents to join him tonight so he could tell them about all that he has done, or if they invited themselves to make sure that he's not maybe fudging just a little bit and trying to drag people along. But either way, it's very nice to have you join us tonight. That is Paul and Becky Huber. And Paul was a submariner. So, Sean, you should get to know Paul, but he's crazy like you, which is good stuff. He also brought his two young kids tonight, Lily, who's sitting right here, and Nathan, who's over there. And he brought Nathan because if the slides don't work right, he said he wanted someone to blame. So that's what his 16-year-old son is here for, but that works out well. So in short, his summary of his bio is that Michael Huber was born. No, there's more. There's more. Went to the Naval Academy, graduated there, went through all the things that a young lieutenant does. Basic school, flight school, came out, became an Aviate-B pilot, spent a lot of time right here at Cherry Point, had combat tours in a couple different places, Iraqi Freedom, in Afghanistan, and then took his VMU squadron, which he'll tell you about, back over to Afghanistan again. So he's no stranger to getting into tough spots. He probably has some opinions on what's going on now, but I'm guessing he won't share all of them. And then the great thing is, after spending a little time at headquarters Marine Corps, he was transferred to the Joint Strike Fighter program. One of the funny things about the Marine Corps and all the services, I guess, is that you often get to think up something and start it, and you almost never are there when it comes to fruition. Just doesn't happen. So he goes to the Joint Strike Fighter program and then comes down to Cherry Point and sort of gets things started, but the one who really benefited from that is sitting right over there, the current CEO, because now someone who's done a lot of the legwork, and that's the way it is. I mean, we do things and we plan it out as far as we can, but we're maybe not in the Marine Corps anymore when it comes true. I mean, I started trying to get a gymnasium in 1998. He's getting the money for it now. What year is this? I mean, it's crazy stuff. But that's the way things work. And thank God we have people who will put their nose to the grindstone and make it work. So it is my pleasure to present Colonel Michael Huber.
Well, thank you, General. I appreciate it. It's awesome to be here tonight and see so many familiar faces, but also to see some faces of folks that I don't know personally because they're young Marines, and now I'm a retired old Marine and off doing other things, and the Marine Corps being the young service it is, we bring a lot of new people in and have them do great things for our country. It's great to see some of those young faces here tonight. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I will tell you that my bride highly recommended that I have a bit of a script here. I can't really see the slides, so I think the best way to stay on track is to go off my little script here. And so I'm going to do that because I have a lot of things that I want to talk to you about. Those of you that know me with the call sign of words know that I'm not a huge conversationalist necessarily, but when I do talk about aviation, I tend to get a little bit passionate about it, and certainly can go on for a long time. So I'm going to stick to the script, and my son Nate is going to help me with the slideshow. So I must admit, I was a little surprised when General Broughton asked me to speak at the ECAF Gala. It was not immediately clear to me what I could talk about that people would want to hear. There's nothing in my journey that is special other than the fact that the journey is mine. If there's one constant truth about aviators, though, it's that they like to tell stories about flying airplanes. And as I look back on my journey in aviation, there are a few stories to tell, and maybe one or two will pique your interest tonight. First things first. My journey to Eastern North Carolina began when I was 6 years old in Monterey, California. Admittedly, I've been telling this story wrong for nearly 50 years because on my 6th birthday, my dad rented a plane and I got to fly for the first time. Now, for all these years, I've been telling folks it was on my 5th birthday when I got to take that flight that set the course of my life in aviation moving forward. But when I asked my mom if she had any pictures of the event, she presented me with the one that you see on the screen, and on the back it said, quote, "Michael with sun in his eyes, plane ran on 6th birthday." So for nearly 50 years, I've been following the aviator tall tale adage, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Next, it was on to Lee Field in Edgewater, Maryland. For years, I'd been consumed by dreams of flying, trips to the Air and Space Museum, building countless models of airplanes that hung from my bedroom ceiling, watching movies like The Battle of Midway, Top Gun, and The Right Stuff. As I turned 15, I decided it was time to take flying lessons. So I mowed lawns and pulled weeds for anyone willing to help me pay for time in this Piper Colt. And by the time I turned 16, I was ready to solo. What a thrill. I did touch and goes in the pattern with my instructor a couple times, and then he told me to full stop. As we pulled to beam the hangar, he jumped out and said it was time for me to go by myself. So I grew up a Navy brat. My father and my grandfather were graduates from the U.S. Naval Academy. I applied and was accepted to the class of 1993. I knew that naval aviation was what I wanted to do more than anything, and that the Naval Academy was the best way to achieve that goal. While that didn't change during my 4 years at Annapolis, what did change was the path that I would follow to my wings of gold. The more I was around Marines, the more they impressed me. Their motivation, attention to detail, drive towards excellence in warfighting opened my eyes to a service that I had little exposure to growing up. The more I learned about the close air support mission, the more I knew I wanted to be a Marine. During my time at the Academy, the Persian Gulf War played out in front of us. As the Allies overwhelmed the Iraqi forces during Desert Storm, those of us who had yet to join the fleet felt like we were missing game day. But if history has taught us anything, it's will always be more fighting to come to preserve the freedom that we all enjoy. I service-selected Marine Aviation, and in May 1993, I pinned on second lieutenant and prepared to head off to Quantico, Virginia for the basic school. 6 months later, it was off to flight school, which took me to Pensacola, Florida, for aviation pre-flight indoctrination, then Milton, Florida, for primary in the T-34C. One more, Nate. Meridian, Mississippi, for intermediate jets in the T-2. And Kingsville, Texas, for advanced jets in the T-45A. I flew my carrier qualification training on the USS Kennedy, CV-67, and was top hook for my class. Soon after earning my wings of gold, for a brief moment, I thought I would be assigned the EA-6B Prowlers due to my proficiency at the boat, but I soon found out that I'd fly the AV-8B Harrier. I made my way to Cherry Point, North Carolina for initial training in the AV-8B at VMAT 203. After a short wait, I began Harrier training and 1 year later transferred to my first gun squadron, the Tigers of VMA 542. Fleet training was intensive as I was immediately put into the newest version of the AV-8B, the Harrier 2 Plus, otherwise known as the radar jet. It incorporated the APG-65 pulse Doppler radar and put the airplane on the playing field with other radar-equipped tactical jets. As my training plan ramped up, I went from training in section, 2 jets working together, to division training, 4 jets working together. Soon after I got to 542, the weather was poor in Cherry Point, so we flew north to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with 4 jets to conduct division training. Following an uneventful flight up, we stopped at Wright-Pat for fuel and to get ready for our next flight. We taxied out onto the runway and prepared for a division stream stow or short takeoff, which has all 4 jets rolling down the runway at the same time. I was number 4. I noticed some puffs of black smoke coming out of the number 3 jet as we lifted off and climbed through 500 feet. I saw something that I had never seen in an airplane before. My flight lead in the number 3 jet was Captain Steve, callsign Franz Brooks. And he had flames the length of his aircraft coming out of the hot nozzles of his jet. I quickly transmitted, "Franz, you're on fire. Franz, you're on fire, eject." What I didn't know was that Franz was suffering a catastrophic engine failure, and he had already selected manual fuel, which added a large amount of fuel to the combustion chamber on an engine that wasn't working anymore, hence the fire. With the ill-fated jet quickly slowing down as my jet accelerated, I quickly approached the burning aircraft as my wingman ejected. His seat rapidly flew past my airplane, as I watched the burning aircraft descend towards the intersection of I-675 and I-70 there in Wright-Patterson, Ohio, with considerable traffic on the highway. From my perspective, it looked like the doomed jet was going to fly right into a white sedan that was stopped on the roadway. Fortunately, it went just beyond the stopped vehicle and crashed into an adjacent cornfield. I slowed my aircraft so I could ensure that my wingman had a good parachute, that I could alert air traffic control of the crash and Franz's location. As my heavy aircraft, full of fuel, rapidly slowed, it was all I could do to keep it flying, keep everything in sight, keep talking to air traffic control, and let the other two jets that were, and talk to the other two jets that were quickly accelerating away. Everything happened so quickly, but it felt like slow motion. Once I had my jet safely on the ground, I could finally exhale. Franz suffered minor injuries, and the jet was a total loss. The backstory on the jet that crashed is it was in the hangar that 542 shared with our sister squadron, the VMA 223 Bulldogs. The night before our flight to Wright-Patt, two young Marines from 223 decided they were tired of hangar pigeons crapping on jets in the hangar. So they took it upon themselves to use a slingshot to try and kill the pigeons. Roughly 15 ball bearings into the effort, a staff non-commissioned officer caught the Marines and let them have it. Next morning, we conducted a comprehensive FOD walk on the hangar deck and found a handful of the metal balls. But one went down the intake of the mishap jet and was out of sight when the intake was inspected. That jet flew all the way to Ohio with a metal ball bearing bouncing around the compressor and turbine section of the aircraft. It was only after the engine cooled that the damage was done. When Franz went to full power for the takeoff, weakened blades failed and flew out the hot section of the jet, hence the puffs of black smoke that I witnessed. The result of the analysis of our HUD tapes, with my monotone delivery on the radio, was my commanding officer giving me the call sign WORDS, an aviation tactical brevity term, or PRO word, used to ask for amplifying information, or lack thereof in my case. Up next was a workup for shipboard deployment, and I was chosen to be one of the 10 pilots from 542 that would deploy with the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit. We deployed to the Mediterranean with the 24th MEU aboard the USS Nassau. The deployment started off with normal training events with partner nations. We spent 2 weeks in Israel at Nevatim Air Base, training and working with the Israeli Air Force. The days before Christmas in Rota, Spain were spent training with the Spanish Navy 9th Squadron, who also flew the Harrier. We flew with Greek F-16s and Mirage 2000s. In the background during this time, things were heating up in Serbia and Kosovo. We sent a Harrier representative to the Combined Air Operations Center in Vicenza, Italy on a rotating basis to learn about Allied plans should U.S. forces get sent into combat. During a port call in Malta, my number was called as my boss notified me that I'd be going to the Kayak. He told me this as I came back aboard the ship from Cinderella Liberty at midnight. And I had to be off the ship by 0600 in the morning, since it would put to sea immediately and be headed for a classified modified location, or MODLOC. So I packed my things and got off the ship in the morning with nothing more than myself, a sea bag, a hastily prepared set of orders to the Kayak. No plane tickets, no hotel reservations, no plan. This was truly a mission to Garcia moment. I was able to get from Malta to Vicenza in 2 days and arrived at the Kayak just in time for the first Air Tasking Order, or ATO, to be executed, beginning Operation Allied Force. I was the 24th MEU liaison officer to the Kayak, and part of my job was to sit watch in the Personnel Recovery Coordination Cell, or PRCC, on the watch floor. On the night of the third ATO, during an F-117 strike, Vega 3-1 was hit by a Serbian SA-3 missile and subsequently crashed. As a young captain, I was just a watchstander. Air Force Major John McGonigal, a Special Operations Liaison Officer, was in charge of the PRCC effort, but wasn't on the floor when Vega 3-1 went down. I quickly got on the phone and called the Major and let him know that we had lost an aircraft and that it appeared that the pilot was on the ground evading capture. We spent the next 6 hours putting together a rescue mission that included H-60 Pavehawks, A-10 Sandys, EA-6B Prowlers, with numerous fighters and support aircraft assisting to rescue the pilot. Due to the heroic efforts of the aircrew involved, the downed pilot remaining calm and in contact with friendly forces, and a bit of good luck, we were able to successfully rescue Lieutenant Colonel Dale Zelko.
I was a fighter pilot in the United States Air Force in the F-117 stealth fighter, and I participated in Operation Allied Force. My task was to take out one of the most high-value strategic command and control targets in Belgrade.
This thing was supposed to be a 3 to 5 day air campaign, just go, hit a couple discrete targets, bring everyone back. Obviously it didn't pan out that way. It became a much more complicated event.
The first and the second night went smoothly. All the missions went without much incident, and we anticipated the third night would probably be the same.
It was extremely unexpected that it would go past about 2 or 3 nights. So that, I think, gives you a sense of the type of targets that they would select for the F-117s and the B-2s to surgically strike.
The Serbs, they were a formidable force to deal with. Belgrade had a very serious integrated air defense system, which is why the F-117 was in there early on.
We knew we had the training, we knew we had the experience, we knew we had the gear to do what we needed to do that night.
Once you are stealthed up, you do not communicate. So if anything were to happen to me, there's a real good chance that nobody would know that.
My phone rings and my Marine captain gives me a call and says, I think you need to come up to the battle staff floor because I think we've lost an aircraft.
There is unquestionably an unwritten code that when an aircraft goes down, we will do everything in our power to retrieve that individual.
Everyone was starting to find out that we had lost an aircraft. They all wanted a piece of this thing to be able to get Dale back.
We know that a survivor on the ground has a limited shelf life. We knew people were going to be trying to shoot us down. We knew that there was a much higher risk involved.
The F-117 getting shot down was so unexpected. Attitude changed immediately. That it was just such an against all odds type scenario.
I knew that when the night was over, it was going to be very different from what I envisioned in my head. And the only part that I knew, and that we all knew, is that we're going to rescue this guy.
Part of the pledge we take, our motto is that these things we do that others may live. That's everything you do, everything you train for, everything you deploy for.
Several years ago, the opportunity presented itself for the Serbian Surface-to-Air Missile Battery Commander, Colonel Zoltan Dani, and I to meet. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could all get to truly know each other? And then, once you become very close, intimate, dear friends, how could you ever be against each other?
So this was a night that I'll never forget. You can see the full episode of No Man Left Behind, Stealth Pilot Rescue documentary on National Geographic. After spending the first 3 weeks of Allied force at the Kayak, I left Vicenza and made my way to a closed international airport in Bari, Italy, where a CH-46 picked me up and flew me out to the Nassau. After a quick currency sortie around the ship, I was ready to fly in combat. My second combat sortie was one I'll always remember. My flight lead was Major Bob G-Man Sofji, now Major General Bob Sofji. We were tasked to work with U.S. Air Force F-16s that were carrying targeting pods and target marking rockets in western Kosovo. Our aircraft were armed with 2 GBU-12 laser-guided bombs and 2 Mark 82 general-purpose bombs. We conducted pre-mission tanking on the KC-130 refueling aircraft between cloud layers over the Adriatic. We then pressed into contested airspace over Kosovo. Many flight crews had been targeted by surface-to-air missiles and AAA, so we were on the lookout for SAM and radar indications. We contacted the section of F-16s who had found artillery positions and revetments. As we flowed into the target area at 20,000 feet, the F-16 flight lead began to describe the target area and stated they would mark the target with a rocket. I spotted the marking F-16, saw the impact of his rocket, and was in perfect position to roll in and drop an LGB in the laser basket. The F-16 cleared me hot and I released my bomb, shack, or a direct hit. G-Man flew high cover while I was dropping my bomb and now had good situational awareness on the target area. As I assumed high cover, he rolled in and dropped an LGB, shack. I had to abort my next roll-in because the F-16 was out of position to laze the next artillery tube. So I came off to high cover. G-Man rolled in with his second LGB, Shack. The F-16s then hit bingo fuel and had to egress from the target area. We contacted ABCCC, or Airborne Command and Control, who had a secondary target for us close to Pristina, Kosovo's capital city. So we turned our jets and headed for the next target. With increasing radar AAA indications, we began a continuous weave to make any targeting problem difficult for the Serbians. We pressed into the target area, located our secondary target, and dropped our Mark 82s. With good effects on target and our fuel gauges getting low, it was time to egress back and get back to friendly territory. We recovered aboard the Nassau and were pretty satisfied with having executed a very successful combat mission. These are the Harrier pilots that were deployed on the 24th MEU. Upon our return home, I earned qualifications as was nominated to attend the Weapons and Tactics Instructor course in Yuma, Arizona. The opportunity to become a WTI through the very challenging WTI course was a real honor for a young attack pilot. Following WTI, I was asked to deploy with the Ace of Spades Squadron, VMA 231, on the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit. My boss on the deployment was a good friend and mentor, Lieutenant Colonel Rich Nightmare Regan. Upon returning home from my second shipboard deployment, I received orders to Yuma, Arizona to be an instructor pilot at Marine Aviation's Weapons and Tactics Squadron 1, where the Corps makes weapons and tactics instructors. Being a MOTS IP is an extremely challenging job, but one that results in great satisfaction. I had the opportunity to fly with every Harrier squadron while conducting fleet support. My time at MOTS was unique because I was there through 9/11, which set the course of many Marines' careers for years to come. Watching events unfold in Afghanistan and then beginning to take shape in Iraq, it was clear that MOTS would be intimately involved with the planning and execution of Operation Iraqi Freedom. For the first time since the Gulf War, MOTS canceled the Spring WTI course in 2003. Instructors left Yuma to augment many Marine units in the lead up to OIF. Within the Harrier shop at MOTS, I was the IP who had deployed aboard the ship most recently, so I was sent to join the Harrier carrier from the East Coast aboard the USS Bataan. With 2 Harrier squadrons from Cherry Point embarked, VMA 542 and VMA 223. My job was to develop the tactical playbook that both squadrons would utilize that streamlined everything from planning to operational execution. With 24 Harriers and 2 squadrons of pilots, we needed a template to plan, brief, fly, and debrief with limited resources on a round-the-clock basis. We put a solid plan together, which we were able to refine once we got to the Persian Gulf. I soon found myself in Kuwait for theater planning with a number of familiar faces. These are the classmates of mine from the Naval Academy. Once back aboard the Bataan, it was time to get familiar with the airspace as we began to fly Operation Southern Watch missions over Iraq. Real-world events continue to push towards conflict. On the eve of the war, we received guidance from Major General Mattis, Commanding General of the 1st Marine Division Reinforced, which motivated every Marine that heard his words. Quote, "You are the world's most feared and trusted force. Engage your brain before you engage your weapon. Share your courage with each other as we enter uncertain terrain north of the line of departure. Keep faith in your comrades on your left and right and Marine air overhead. Fight with a happy heart and strong spirit. Demonstrate to the world that there is no better friend, no worse enemy than a U.S. Marine." I had the opportunity to lead a number of combat sorties during early stages of OIF. Around 9/11, we began integrating a targeting pod on the Harrier, which significantly changed our tactics. We became a self-sufficient, very lethal attack platform from medium altitude. The Lightning pod was one of the best in the business, and we had the good fortune to have it strapped on our jet. As such, not only did it allow the Harrier to search out and destroy numerous Iraqi targets, but it could also help many other aircraft find and destroy the Iraqi army. A newer mission for us was called SCAR, Strike Coordination and Reconnaissance. One night I found myself as a SCAR coordinator over an Iraqi town called Tikrit. There were numerous forces dug in around Tikrit, as well as ammunition and tactical vehicle storage facilities. The largest explosion I ever witnessed came after I guided an LGB into an ammunition storage facility that was amazing through the naked eye. But on my targeting pod, it looked as if the flames would reach my aircraft at 20,000 feet. The fortunate thing about medium altitude tactics was that while the Iraqis would shoot at us with AAA and missiles, they were afraid to use radar guidance. So surface-to-air fires were largely ineffective, but they provided quite a light show at night. Our typical mission profile would be to launch off the ship, hit a tanker for fuel before executing our assigned tasking, and then recover to Al Jaber, Kuwait. At Al Jaber, we'd get fuel, bombs, debrief, and rebrief for our next mission, and then we'd head north for round 2. At the conclusion of the second mission, we'd recover to the ship, and the jets would get ready to go again. The fight progressed very quickly, and the next thing we knew, Marines were on Baghdad's doorstep. Once Allied forces had control of Baghdad, it was time for Mott's augments to head back to Yuma and get ready for fall WTI. So in mid-April, I left the baton and met up with my fellow Mott's instructors in Kuwait to head back to the USA. And just that quickly, my OIF experience was over. After 3 years in Yuma, I returned to Cherry Point to instruct at VMAT 203. It was an interesting transition to go from shaping the future weapons and tactics instructors of the community to teaching the very basics of flying the jet to new Harrier pilots in the AV-8B and the two-seat TAV-8B. I again got to serve with my friend Nightmare, the squadron CO, as his operations officer. Halfway through my tour, I learned that I'd get orders to the Pentagon to work at Headquarters Marine Corps in the aviation hallway. I was the Harrier Action Officer for the Corps for 3 years, learned a great deal about aviation and how aviation works at the program level. Finally, after 39 months, not that I was counting, I was able to get orders back to the fleet, so I found myself back in Cherry Point as the operations officer for Marine Aircraft Group 14, the largest group in the Corps at the time. As the OPSO, I had the opportunity to train aboard Her Majesty's ship Ark Royal for a week off the coast of North Carolina with VMA 542 and VMA 223. The Brits had retired their Harriers, but the Ark Royal crew was happy to have Harriers flying off her deck. The ski jump launch is truly a thing of beauty. The Brits took great care of us. We were aboard for the anniversary of the sinking of the Bismarck, in which in large part was to the credit of torpedo planes flown from an earlier version of Ark Royal. The crew celebrated in grand style and welcomed our participation. We all had a great experience on this partner nation ship. While at MAG 14, I was selected to command Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Squadron 2 in Cherry Point. At the time, the VMUs were the most deployed units in the Corps, supporting around-the-clock operations in Afghanistan. I deployed to Afghanistan to join VMU 2 in Helmand Province, supporting Operation Enduring Freedom. Once in place, I jumped right into the fire and quickly qualified as an RQ-7 Shadow Mission Commander. At the same time, I conducted turnover with a sitting CO, Lieutenant Colonel Crusher Lathrop, and on May 2nd, we had a change of command on the flight line of Forward Operating Base Dwyer. Shortly thereafter, I brought VMU-2 back home to Cherry Point, and we began immediate preparations for our next OIF deployment. 12 short months later, we prepared to deploy again, and it was an exciting feeling to lead the squadron back to Afghanistan. We operated 3 types of UAVs, the RQ-7 Shadow, the Scan Eagle, and the K-MAX, an experimental unmanned helicopter that was used to conduct logistical resupply between FOBs all over the Helmand Province. My Marines were spread across 5 FOBs, which meant that I, along with Sergeant Major Grade, my Sergeant Major, spent a lot of time in the back of an MV-22 or CH-53 moving between FOBs to check on my Marines. I also served as mission commander for numerous RQ-7 sorties. The only mishap I ever had as a Marine pilot was in Afghanistan when my unmanned RQ-7 suffered an engine failure in flight one night. The RQ-7 has a parachute built into the system. We were able to glide the stricken aircraft to a landing point just outside of another Marine FOB. We alerted the Marines that an RQ-7 was down outside of their perimeter, and they were able to send a quick reaction force out to pick up the downed aircraft. Decisions were made to draw down OEF force size in Afghanistan. VMU-2 would remain, but only utilizing the Scan Eagle and K-MAX. The RQ-7 Marines and equipment would return home. Other force drawdowns resulted in fewer security forces all around the region. I felt that put our Marines at a greater risk, which I communicated to my boss. That fear became a reality for the Marines of VMA 211 at Camp Bastion. A force of 15 Taliban insurgents dressed in U.S. Army uniforms penetrated the perimeter at Bastion and began attacking the Harrier flight line. A friend of mine, Lieutenant Colonel Otis Rabel, the commanding officer at 211, quickly responded to the scene. Living the adage that every Marine is a rifleman, the Marines at 211 fought back to repel the invaders. Using RPGs and small arms, the Taliban destroyed 6 Harriers. And an EC-130, a C-12, and a number of helicopters were also damaged. 14 of 15 insurgents were killed in the response, and the remaining insurgent was captured. The attack resulted in the largest loss of American aircraft since Vietnam. The biggest loss that night was the 2 Marines killed in repelling the attack, Otis and Sergeant Bradley Atwell. I had the opportunity to meet with Otis at Camp Leatherneck about 6 weeks before the Bastion attack at a commander's call. I have fond memories of that evening as we broke bread, talked about the deployment, and laughed at the little things. Otis will be missed. I relinquished command of VMU-2 to a friend and classmate from the Naval Academy, Lieutenant Colonel Che Bolden. Following command, I was selected to attend Marine Corps War College in Quantico. After the year of school, I was assigned to a joint billet at the U.S. Department of State in the Political Military Affairs Bureau. And following 2 years at State, I was reassigned to the F-35 Joint Program Office as a senior Marine. During my 2-year stint at the JPO, I helped with procurement of aircraft, standing up of new F-35 bases, resolution of technical challenges, and the first shipboard deployment of the F-35B. The JPO job would prove very useful in future tasking. I then received orders to the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing in Cherry Point for my 4th assignment in Eastern North Carolina. I served as the Assistant Chief of Staff for Operations, or G3. Within 4 months of assuming the job, I received some unexpected news. I had been selected to command the air station at Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. The opportunity to lead the air station was truly a blessing, and it gave me the opportunity to give back to the air station that impacted so much of my career. Working with the amazing team of Marines and civilians, I was able to help guide Cherry Point through the initial transition of the air station to support the F-35, the recovery from Hurricane Florence, the COVID pandemic, and the first Marine Corps Air Show in over 2 years at the time due to COVID. While in the job, I was able to transition to fly the UC-35 and fly as both co-pilot and aircraft commander. One of my favorite aspects of the job was community engagement, as Cherry Point shares an amazing relationship with the local community, surpassing that of any location that I was ever assigned in 29 years of service. During my time in command, I cemented some amazing friendships with members of the community, which is one of the reasons we have decided to make Eastern North Carolina our home. Toward the end of my time at Cherry Point, I began the process of determining what was next for me in life after the Marine Corps. I remained drawn to flying and decided to see what opportunities may present themselves in the cockpit. I applied to a number of airline positions that included major airlines, business jet companies, and aviation cargo companies. I received a number of job offers, but the one that I chose was American Airlines. I joined the ranks of American 2 weeks after my retirement ceremony and selected the A320 family of aircraft, which includes the A319, A320, and A321, with my initial base was in Washington, D.C. I completed training and soon after was on the line. I was recently able to change my base to Charlotte. Commercial flying is a whole new ballgame, but it's been an exciting transition for me. The flying's totally different than anything I've done in the past. In just over a year flying, I've accumulated about 1/3 of my total flight time, nearly 900 hours in the last 13 months. The toughest part of commercial flying is the operations on the ground, which is 180 out from my military experience. And while I miss wearing the Marine Corps uniform, I still get to wear a uniform and have flown with incredible crew members from all over the country. I enjoy the interaction with our customers, but my favorite part of the job is being able to focus entirely on flying. In just over a year flying the Airbus, I've flown all over the continental U.S., Mexico, Canada, and other numerous Latin American countries. I want to conclude by recognizing that a journey like this doesn't happen without the support of many. Certainly the leaders, instructors, squadron mates, mentors, co-workers, and friends that were there through the years, too numerous to name, but who were there day in and day out. Most importantly, my family, beginning with my mom and dad, who are here tonight. They got me started on this journey and have been a part of it since the beginning. My beautiful wife, Elena, who I met in Cherry Point and married in the chapel in the air station. She has been and is my best friend, confidant, and soulmate. My children, 2 of the 5 here tonight, and thank you very much, Nathan, for your help, who keep me grounded and always remind me of what's important in life. My extended family, who cannot be here this evening, but who have always supported me and who are here in spirit. And the cherry on top is that Elena and I have become grandparents to beautiful baby Reeves. So after a 29 career, which saw approximately 14 years stationed here in Eastern North Carolina, my new adventure as an American Airlines first officer based in Charlotte, it is clear that my journey in aviation brought me and my family here, and we are proud to be a part of this amazing community. Thank you.
Go for it. Well, it's pretty easy to see why Paul and Becky were rather proud of their son. And Elena kind of likes her husband. And 2 of the 5 kids, the ones that are here tonight, are just absolutely amazing. And when I did call him at first, he said, well, you know, who would want to hear anything from me? That's the typical answer you get. I didn't do anything special. I went and talked to a bunch of Iwo Jima vets back in '99. And one of them was one of the original flag raisers. I said, well, what did you actually do? He said, I just did my job. And that's what he tried to tell me. I just did my job. Well, that's a hell of a job he had. And it's impressive. And we thank you very much for all the things you have gone through. We thank you for your decision to stay right here in Eastern North Carolina with us. And he lives pretty close to me in New Bern, and pretty close to a nice little restaurant, so we'll probably see each other fairly often. But really, really great work, and it's nice to have you here. And so we have a small token of our appreciation. Feels kind of heavy. I think it's a rock. I'm not sure. That's our poster, and there's something else in there for you too. Want me to hold that? And then just in case he gets tired of flying an Airbus A320, he can come back and fly with us in the T&E anytime he wants to with our logo on there. Thank you. I'll get all that stuff. I'd like to, again, thank all of our sponsors. Our title sponsors, Carolina East and WCTI News Channel 12. Our gold sponsors, City of Havelock, Interbanks Media, The Flame, NSI, the Harold Bate Foundation, Richard Hazlitt, Legacy Private Client Services, and our bronze ones are JCTM, Crystal Coast Aviation, and all of our great table sponsors. What Colonel Huber was talking about at the end, it always takes a team. Well, we are fortunate here in the ECAF, we have a team. FRC East, City of Havelock, NC State, the Institute of Aeronautical Technology, Cherry Point, and all of our media outlets. So we thank all of you because we couldn't do anything if we didn't have some folks who would broadcast what it is that's going on. And now, again, thank you to all of our volunteers tonight. We've had some great help from the city, We've had great help from people just all over, our audiovisual, Pete and Nathan, thanks very much. Smoke for the catering was great. And I'm going to break tradition a little bit because I'm going to make an announcement that may cost me a friend, and I hope not. The Craven Community College Foundation each year has what they call Community Fabric Awards. And this year, the winner of the Community Fabric Award for individual leadership is someone who's been at all of the things that we do here as far back as I can remember, Linda McDonald. Linda. She is involved in everything, and that's a very fitting person to choose. Thanks to all of you for being here. Drive safely, and remember, if you're headed toward New Bern tonight, one of the lanes on Highway 70 is going to be closed. So there'll be signs that say one lane right or left is closed. Believe them, because it will be. And don't be calling me to come and get you out of the ditch, because it's going to be bad. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for all your support. Thanks, Colonel Huber.